I'd like to preface this by saying thank you to those who participated in my last video by leaving comments on those horrific things that you've been witness to. Some of those stories I can't even imagine. Once again, thank you. And this brings us to the point of this video. Why are we on the path drawn toward the darker aspects? If we have seen, experienced the horror, what is it that causes us to gravitate toward the horrific? Now, none of us, let's face facts, none of us likes to wallow. None of us are about to wallow in our own personal self-pity. I hope not, because you'll get nowhere if you do. My own personal story, my background is, my childhood was very ugly, and some of my siblings, that's all they do is wallow in pity about their past. And if you want to amount to anything, you got to take that aspect of your existence, that trauma you experienced, and build on top of it. Utilize it, face it, admit to yourself what happened, and become stronger from it. That's a very Nietzschean ideal, if you will. Now, what do we do with these experiences? How do we utilize them? Well, they should be utilized as steps, if you will. Steps leading to something higher. The higher self, if you will. It should be like building muscle. When you work out, you're tearing the microfibers of your muscles, and then they scar and they grow larger, and you tear them again and they scar and they grow larger, and so on. It's a similar situation as dealing with the horrors of existence. And we on the path, as I've mentioned 1,000 times, are drawn to the darker gods of the path. The horrific aspects of the archetypes. Now, Carl Jung believed the collective unconscious, where these archetypes dwell, was a place, possibly a universe within itself. And these archetypes, they exist in this raw, primitive form, but from time to time, if you will, they send out their avatars. And we who have suffered through the ugly and the horrific and so on and so forth, are familiar, or we recognize the faces of those dark avatars. We find comfort in those beings. We find comfort in the darker aspect of, let's say, in a Hindu perspective, Shiva's darker aspect. Rudra, for example. We find comfort in Satan. We find comfort in Lilith and the many demons Odin in his furious form. The irony, though, is we have to go deep down. We have to go into the depths of the psyche to become the higher us, the better us, the being that we were meant to be. But where are we going when we go down? We're going to hell. And while in hell, we must confront the dark entities that dwell in that abyss. We stare them down, and in some cases we embrace them. But, and this is important, and I think we innately understand this, we don't turn our backs on them. And in the fires of hell burn the source of the black flame, the spark of individualistic self-awareness. It's in this personal hell that we see its glow. And the light of the black flame is what you utilize to go down the left-hand path. But there are always risks. And real risks bring about real advancements. You grow from suffering. And also when you're on the path, you have no time for pretend. Even in ritual, you don't like to pretend. The white lighters, the modern pagans, they like to symbolically dip their athame into a chalice, but you on the left-hand path, you want to fuck your partner. You don't want to ask the angels for advice. You want to command the demons. You choose to step on the left-hand path because you have a drive to further your power, to become more than who you are. Because this is the path of self-overcoming, the path to sinister illumination, which comes about through individual development based upon personal needs and effort. You're not reaching for some collectivistic spiritual enlightenment. You want more than that, much more. And as I've said many times before, if it were only about obtaining peace in your soul, you'd join a fucking church or a neo-pagan coven. And if you think a pagan coven sounds cool and you can dance naked in the forest with a bunch of women, then again, that would be an aspect of facing the horror, because most aren't as beautiful as the women on the left-hand path. But I digress. Truth is, you don't want to bask in the glow, the glory of some god or a goddess. You want to be a god. This is why you're on the sinister path, the path where the demons dwell, and you can either run screaming in horror or utilize them to your advantage. And the way you connect with them is through myth, ritual, and meditation. But if you're skeptical, you don't have to ignore your doubts. According to Carl Jung, occult knowledge is the wisdom of the ancients, hidden truths, metaphorical psychology, if you will. And through the song of myth and the dance of ritual, we allow the dark gods and demons to speak to us. But often it's in a language the conscious mind, the ego mind, doesn't understand. But the subconscious does, that larger reservoir of who we are. So, in conclusion, my friends, fans, and faithful minions, I again want to thank those who opened their souls and revealed the darkness they've been witness to. And even though it scarred the subconscious, I hope in some way being open about it was cathartic and helped you to realize it could very well be the reason why you're now on the left-hand path.